Imagine waking up tomorrow, walking into the bathroom, looking in the mirror, and instantly recognizing yourself.
Right, yeah.
You don't have to think about it. You don't have to, like, solve a puzzle to know it's you. There you are, your face, your body, your memories.
Exactly, it's effortless.
But what if that feeling of me isn't a fixed object hiding somewhere in your head? What if being you is something your brain and body are actively, painstakingly building moment by moment just to keep you alive?
I mean, it completely upends our intuitive sense of reality. You know, the idea that we are actively constructing our existence from the inside out. It's really one of those profound shifts in modern science.
Welcome, listeners, to another My Mind MashUps deep dive where we unravel mysteries, spark curiosity, and make sense of complex ideas together.
It is so great to be here.
Before we dive into today's mystery, I really want to take a moment to thank all the listeners that showed their appreciation by buying us a coffee.
Yes, thank you guys so much.
If you would like to support our channel, the link is in the description below. Also, just a quick reminder to everyone that we are now available on Apple Podcast. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you enjoy content that makes you think.
Yeah, your support allows us to keep exploring these incredible topics.
Now, as you know, every deep dive we do is about three core things: sparking curiosity, challenging assumptions, and expanding understanding.
Right.
And today's topic is, well, it's going to stretch your brain in the best way possible. We are synthesizing research centered around the book Being You, A New Science of Consciousness by Anil Seth. He's a professor of cognitive and computational neuroscience at the University of Sussex.
A brilliant researcher, truly.
Our mission today is to break down this incredibly complex neuroscience into everyday language, exploring how our biological bodily processes actually manufacture the subjective feeling of being alive.
Yeah, and to truly grasp how your brain constructs reality, we really have to start with a massive roadblock.
Oh, definitely.
Because for decades, scientists and philosophers have been completely stuck on how to even, study consciousness in the first place.
So let's unpack this roadblock. We are talking about David Chalmers' famous hard problem of consciousness, right?
That is the one. Coined back in the 1990s, the hard problem asks a question that seems almost impossible to answer.
Which is?
Why do physical processes give rise to any subjective experience at all? Why should sodium and potassium ions flowing across a neuron's membrane produce a feeling?
Right, why should a 3-pound lump of biological wetware inside your skull produce the feeling of smelling coffee or, the sudden rush of panic?
Exactly. It's a paralyzing question.
I mean, I like to think about it this way. Trying to solve the hard problem right out of date is a bit like trying to explain why the entire universe exists all at once.
Oh yeah, that's a good way to put it.
You just end up staring at the ceiling in an existential crisis. But Seth proposes a completely different path, which he calls the real problem.
He does, yeah.
Which is more like saying, hey, instead of explaining the origin of the entire universe, let's just figure out how gravity works first.
That is a highly practical way to look at it. Seth argues that asking why consciousness exists hasn't actually led to much scientific progress.
Shocker.
Right. So the real problem is, well, it's a strategic retreat. It is the strategy of mapping the specific properties of our conscious experiences directly onto specific biological mechanisms.
Okay, give me an example of that.
So instead of asking why experience exists at all, the real problem asks, how does a specific pattern of neural activity translate into the unique visual experience of seeing the color red?
While a totally different pattern translates into, the gnawing feeling of jealousy.
Exactly.
I have to ask, though, is Seth saying the hard problem is just a myth? Or is this, just a clever workaround to get funding for neuroscience? Because it feels a bit like ignoring the elephant in the room.
I mean, it is a deliberate workaround, but a scientifically proven one. Seth isn't saying the hard problem is an illusion. He is offering a strategy to dissolve the mystery over time.
Dissolve it? How do you mean?
Think about the history of biology. A century ago, scientists struggled with the hard problem of life. They thought living things possessed this magical, vital spark that made them alive.
Right, vitalism. The idea that biology alone couldn't explain life.
Exactly. But scientists didn't solve vitalism by finding the magic spark. They just chipped away at the real problems of life.
Like metabolism and reproduction?
Yeah, metabolism, genetics, cellular division. And eventually the mechanistic explanations became so robust that the grand mystery of life just kind of faded away.
Oh, wow.
Seth believes that by meticulously mapping the phenomenology of consciousness onto brain mechanisms, the hard problem of consciousness will similarly dissolve.
Okay, so if we are going to look for these biological mechanisms, we have to understand how the brain actually processes the outside world.
We do.
And this is where Seth introduces this framework called predictive processing.
Right. For a very long time, the dominant view in neuroscience was that the brain is like a passive camera. You open your eyes, light streams in, and your brain simply reads that data from the bottom up to create a picture of reality.
But the reality is that the brain is locked inside a dark, silent skull. It has absolutely no direct access to the outside world.
None at all.
It doesn't see light or hear sound. It just receives these ambiguous electrical impulses in the dark.
Which means it has to guess. And this is the core of predictive processing. The brain uses generative models and a mathematical concept called Bayesian inference to predict the world from the inside out.
It generates top-down predictions about what is causing those electrical signals.
Exactly.
Hold on, let's make sure Bayesian inference makes sense to everyone. In simple terms, Bayesian math is just updating your bets based on prior knowledge. Right?
Yeah, that's the gist of it.
Like if I live in Seattle, my prior bet is that water falling from the sky is rain. If I hear a splashing sound outside, my brain predicts rain.
Sure.
But if I live in the desert, my prior bet is different, so my brain might predict a broken sprinkler.
That is a perfect, everyday example of Bayesian updating.
Mm-hmm.
The brain is constantly making its best statistical guess based on past experience.
I love applying this to the classic scenario of hearing a strange noise in your house at night.
Oh, the bump in the night.
Right. The raw sensory data hitting your eardrum is incredibly limited. It's just a tiny vibration. But your brain instantly generates a whole context.
It predicts a burglar, or it pulls up a memory of an old floorboard.
It literally builds a terrifying narrative before you have even formed a conscious thought.
And it does this by continuously trying to minimize what neuroscientists call prediction errors.
Prediction errors.
Yeah. If the incoming sensory data, like the actual sound waves, doesn't match the brain's internal prediction, a prediction error is triggered. The brain then updates its generative model to better match the sensory reality.
So it's an endless cycle.
An endless, high-speed cycle of predicting and correcting. And that is what actually creates your perception of the world.
Which leads us to Anil Seth's most famous and certainly most provocative phrase, controlled hallucination. Now, I have to push back here because this is where people really get lost. When I hear the word hallucination, I think of something entirely disconnected from reality.
A lot of people do.
If everything I'm experiencing right now is a hallucination, does Seth believe the external world is just a fake simulation?
It is so vital to clarify this because Seth does not believe the world is fake. The physical world absolutely exists. The phrase controlled hallucination is meant to shock us out of our passive camera mindset.
Okay, so what's the difference between a normal hallucination and his version?
A clinical hallucination, like a person with schizophrenia hearing voices, is an uncontrolled perception. Their brain's internal predictions have lost their anchor. They are no longer being corrected by incoming sensory data.
Ah, I see. So ordinary, everyday perception is a hallucination because it is actively generated by the brain.
Right.
But it is a controlled one because the incoming sensory signals from the real world act as a leash, constantly correcting the hallucination to match reality.
You nailed it. The sensory signals constrain the brain's imagination. We don't perceive the world exactly as it objectively is. We perceive it in a way that is useful for our survival based on our biological hardware and our prior experiences.
Your brain is essentially a live editor, projecting a movie and constantly rewriting the script based on a feed of error reports from your eyes and ears.
That's a great analogy.
Just a quick midway reminder for you all listening. If this is resonating, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the next deep dive.
It really is a total paradigm shift.
So, if the outside world is a constructed projection, how does this predictive brain create the feeling of me on the inside?
That's the million-dollar question.
Because it's one thing to project a coffee cup, it's entirely another to construct a self.
And this is where Seth's work connects deeply back to our messy biology. He introduces a concept called interoception. We are all familiar with exteroception, which is seeing and hearing the outside world. Interoception is your brain's perception of your internal bodily signals.
We are talking about the internal dashboard, right? Heartbeat, blood pressure, digestion, lung capacity, blood sugar levels.
Yes. Seth argues that consciousness is fundamentally rooted in homeostasis.
Okay, homeostasis, remind me.
Homeostasis is the biological imperative to stay alive, to keep all those internal systems in a very narrow, safe balance. He calls us beast machines.
Beast machines, I like that.
The idea is that we are conscious beings precisely because our brains evolved to predict and control our internal bodily states to prevent us from dying.
You know, this makes so much sense when you think about human emotion. Think about anxiety.
Oh, absolutely.
Anxiety isn't just a philosophical concept floating in an immaterial mind. It is a full body prediction. It is a racing heart, shallow breath, a knot in your stomach.
Right. Your brain is predicting a threat to your homeostasis and flooding the body with cortisol to prepare for it.
And in Seth's model, the conscious feeling of simply being alive, like the feeling of presence, arises when the brain successfully manages those interoceptive prediction errors.
Exactly. The research points to specific neural areas, like the anterior insula, acting as the control center for comparing what the body expects to feel with what it's actually feeling.
But, I mean, this leads to a pretty destabilizing conclusion.
How so?
If my sense of self is just a bundle of biological predictions trying to keep my temperature and blood sugar stable, does the I really exist? Am I just an illusion?
Seth is very careful here. He stresses that the self is a process, not a substance. It's a verb, not a noun.
A verb, okay.
The self is not a little pilot sitting inside your brain driving the body. Instead, the conscious self is a dynamic construction site made of several different facets.
Let's walk through how the brain builds those facets. The foundation is obviously the bodily self, which is the interoception we just discussed. What's the next layer of the construction site?
There is the perspectival self. Your brain has to actively model a point of view, the literal feeling of looking out from behind your eyes. Then there's the volitional self.
Which is our sense of free will?
Yes, but viewed through the lens of prediction. When you reach for a glass of water, your brain predicts the movement before your arm actually moves.
Oh, really?
Yeah. That successful prediction is what gives you this subjective feeling of, I chose to do this. It's a generated experience of agency.
And then there's the narrative self, which has to be our memories, right? Our brains stitching together the past and the future to create a continuous story of who we are.
Exactly. Add the social self, which is how we model our relationships with others, and you get a complete human being.
Wow. All of these facets are just different types of generative models. They are practical tools your brain uses to navigate a complex world and keep the beast machine alive.
That's it in a nutshell.
Okay, but if consciousness requires this desperate biological need to survive, does that mean a machine made of cold, perfect silicon can never actually feel anything?
Well, that's a huge debate right now.
What does this mean for artificial intelligence?
The sources include Seth's 2026 Berggruen Prize essay, The Mythology of Conscious AI. In it, he draws a heavily underlined boundary between intelligence and consciousness.
Okay, break that down for me.
Intelligence is about problem solving and recognizing patterns. Consciousness is about subjective experience. There's something it feels like to be you.
I have to stop you there and push back hard. I interact with large language models every day.
Sure, we all do.
When an AI tells me it's confused or writes a deeply empathetic poem about grief, it is processing incredibly complex emotional relationships. Why is the fact that it runs on silicon instead of carbon the deal breaker? That feels like biological chauvinism.
I hear you. It's a very natural human reaction to project a soul onto anything that speaks our language. But Seth introduces the concept of autopoiesis.
Autopoiesis, okay, big word.
Autopoiesis is the defining property of a living system. It means the system actively maintains and renews its own boundaries against the forces of decay.
Give me an everyday translation of autopoiesis.
Think of a car engine versus a human body. A car engine is complex, but if a gasket blows, it sits there and leaks oil until a mechanic fixes it.
Right.
A human body, however, will actively clot its own blood and knit its own skin back together to heal a cut. Living systems are autopoietic. They actively fight entropy to stay alive.
And a machine doesn't do that.
A machine doesn't have a beating heart. It doesn't have homeostatic survival needs. It doesn't have interoceptive prediction errors screaming at it to find water, or it will die.
So even if an AI can perfectly output the word pain in a beautiful sentence, there are no internal alarm bells ringing. There are no biological stakes.
Exactly. Claiming an AI is conscious just because it mimics human language is confusing a simulation of intelligence with the messy reality of experience. Seth warns that the current panic about conscious AI is largely fueled by economic hype.
But animals are autopoietic. They fight for survival. So under this model, animal consciousness is very real.
Oh, absolutely. Seth and Gerald Edelman developed a framework that looks at neuroanatomy and behavior to assess animal consciousness.
What did they find?
They distinguish between primary consciousness, which is basic sensory awareness and the feeling of pain or pleasure, and higher order consciousness, which involves language and abstract self-reflection.
So a lot of animals have primary consciousness.
Many vertebrates, and even cephalopods like octopuses, clearly possess primary consciousness. They are beast machines, just like us.
Okay, we've painted a very clear picture of Seth's biological predictive model, but neuroscience is a massive field. Who is looking at this predictive model and saying, no, you've got it all wrong?
Well, the field is fiercely debated. One of the major rival theories we need to discuss is integrated information theory, or IIT.
Oh, I've heard this tossed around in tech circles. IIT tries to use math to prove consciousness, right?
Yes, IIT attempts to quantify consciousness. It proposes that consciousness corresponds to the irreducible integration of information in a system. They even have a mathematical value for it called phi.
Okay, irreducible integration of information is heavy textbook jargon. How does that actually work?
Let's use a visual. Imagine the sensor inside a digital camera. It has 20 million pixels. When light hits that sensor, the pixels capture data, but they don't talk to each other.
Okay.
Pixel A has no idea what Pixel B is doing. If you digitally slice that photo in half, you just get two separate perfect halves. The information is not integrated.
Right, it's just raw data sitting in an unconnected grid.
But your brain is totally different. When you look at a red apple, you don't experience redness entirely separate from roundness.
Right, you just see the apple.
The experience is seamlessly unified. You cannot reduce that experience into separate, isolated parts without destroying the experience itself. IIT proposes a complex mathematical formula to calculate exactly how interconnected a system's information is. That resulting number is phi.
So why does Seth disagree with a mathematical approach? It sounds pretty logical.
Seth is skeptical because treating consciousness like a single measurable number, like temperature, strips away the qualitative richness of experience. He believes consciousness is a multi-dimensional biological property, much more akin to the concept of life.
What about global workspace theory, or GWT?
GWT uses the metaphor of a theater. It suggests that unconscious processing happens in the dark seats of the theater. But when a piece's information steps onto the brightly lit stage, it gets broadcast to the rest of the brain.
Ah, okay.
That act of global broadcasting is what makes you conscious of it.
And how does Seth respond to the theater spotlight?
Seth argues that GWT is too focused on high-level cognition, like thinking, attention, and data sharing. GWT ignores the fundamental bodily reality.
Because you can feel things without thinking about them.
Exactly. You can be in mindless, agonizing pain without calculating or broadcasting complex cognitive data. Seth believes GWT misses the raw, biological foundation of feeling alive.
And beyond the competing theories, there are philosophers who reject Seth's whole premise. I know Raymond Tallis is a vocal critic.
Yeah, Tallis accuses Seth of engaging in neuronal fantasy.
Ouch.
Tallis points out a classic philosophical trap called the homunculus fallacy. By personifying the brain as an active editor or a predictor, Tallis argues you were just sneaking a tiny little person into the brain to do all the work.
Right, like who is the one doing the predicting?
Exactly. Calling the brain a prediction machine still doesn't actually explain why the prediction feels like a subjective emotion.
And the cognitive scientist Paul Thagard challenges the math itself, pointing out that the empirical evidence for the brain operating as a strict, perfect Bayesian calculator is actually quite weak.
Thagard doubts that simple prediction errors can account for the sheer staggering richness of human art, culture, and emotion.
So bringing this all back to the listener.
Yeah, let's bring it home.
Given the intense philosophical debates, the mathify, the theater spotlights, and the beast machines, wait, how does knowing that my brain is a prediction machine actually help me tomorrow morning?
Connecting this back to daily life is where this science becomes incredibly empowering. Recognizing that your reality is an active construction is a phenomenal tool for empathy.
Empathy.
Absolutely. When you realize that your perception is just your brain's best guess based on your unique priors, it reduces dogmatism. You realize that when someone deeply disagrees with you, their brain is quite literally generating a different model of the world based on different experiences.
Wow. That reframes every argument I've ever had.
It does, doesn't it?
If someone sees the world differently, they aren't necessarily broken or ignoring the facts. They're just running a different predictive model.
Exactly. And personally, it helps you manage your own mental health. If you understand interoception, you realize that a sudden wave of panic might just be a biological survival system doing its job a little too loudly.
Right.
It's a prediction error, not a prophecy. You don't have to identify with every alarm bell your body rings.
I love that framing. A prediction error, not a prophecy. We've covered incredible ground today, from the hard problem of consciousness to the biology of the self.
Which leaves us with a final, profound thought to carry forward.
Lay it on us.
If the narrative of who you are, your identity, your personality, your limitations is just a generative model built by your brain to keep you alive, then you're not bound by your past.
That is so freeing.
Your self-story is not a life sentence. It is simply a model, and models can always be updated.
Like, comment, and subscribe to hear more My Mind Mashups Deep Dives.
We really appreciate it.
Find My Mind Mashups everywhere you listen. Amazon Music, Audible, Facebook, Pocket Casts, Spotify, TikTok, YouTube, and now available on Apple Podcasts. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Your perspective could shape our next deep dive. So tomorrow morning when you wake up and look in that mirror, remember, you aren't just looking at a reflection. You're looking at a masterpiece of biological prediction, an ongoing living process that is actively building the experience of being you.